All right, y'all. I'm back again. Blackout video. Uh, Topic today is going to be the draft pick problem, and it's becoming pretty evident what Stan's rotation is going to look like. And here's my thing, right? You could take this one of two ways. So, just let's remove Zion from the equation for this year and last year. The last two Pels sets of picks have been Jackson Hayes, Kill Alexander Walker, and Kira Lewis. Like, my first immediate thought is like, okay, they're prepping a backup for Lonzo if they lose Lonzo. If some team, if he has a great year and some team offers him the max or something and they don't want to pay it, goodbye Lonzo. We'll slide Kira, we'll slide Bledsoe, or we'll slide NAW into that slot. Uh, that's what they're doing. And since they're trying to build around Zion instead of Bi, you could put NAW or Kira there and say they're around the same age. Bi obviously will be the oldest of the bunch. So basically, when Bi is around 30, the others will be around 27. They'll all still be in their primes together. Plus, it's a lot easier when you have point guards or guards who have been in the league a couple of years to just come in and take over versus trying to draft somebody new. So getting Kira early, getting NAW early gives them an advantage in the event that they lose Lonzo, which means they were thinking ahead. Okay, but here's the problem, right? Normally you want to play these guys. They're not playing them. And so it begs the question, what are y'all going to do with him? Now, Jackson Hayes, you're playing, but you're not playing him enough minutes. I think he's playing a good amount of minutes, but Zion's is getting minutes at the five. You know, and in small ball lineups against certain matchups, Melly's going to get minutes at the five. So Jackson Hayes is indeed your backup, but he needs to get more minutes to develop that. But you just locked in Steven Adams for the next couple of years, and honestly, Jackson Hayes isn't developing all that fast or that well. Um, so what's the point of having these guys right now? Nikhil Alexander Walker, you can kind of again like he'll make the rotation, he'll crack the rotation here and there, but there's gonna be games where you don't play him because you'll play JJ and Josh Hart, and you'll just switch Bledsoe with Lonzo, and they'll play alternative minutes, or you'll put Bi at point guard and stuff like that. You know, like the other day they pulled Lonzo after like 6 minutes, and they pulled Lonzo and I believe Zion. And they put in Josh Hart and JJ, and they left Bled in with Bi and Steven Adams. So you know, the rotation is kind of now doesn't necessarily need to get any minutes if you're going to play your rotation like that. So what do you have in now? Like at least with Hayes, you get to see what you have in him. But honestly, I'm a little so far. I'm a little unimpressed with Jackson Hayes. Um, and my thing is, if he doesn't start showing more improvement, uh, it's kind of like damn, what do you need him for? He's starting to look like a defensive Jaleel Okafor with that much offensive versatility, but at the same time on defense he's still making ball-headed plays. Um, I would expect a lot of that to get cleaned up, and I'm still gonna wait and give him time and stuff like that, as I do with all the other guys. But at least it'd be different if he had an injury history and he didn't get off season to work on stuff and improve. Uh, but some of the stuff he's been doing in game is kind of questionable, just from a defensive positioning standpoint sometimes. And he just looks like he ball watches and things like that. At least from what I picked up, he's not fully engaged on the defensive end at all times. So that's my thing with Jackson Hayes. But Nikhil Alexander Walker, Kira Lewis, like at some point they're gonna have to get minutes, and by the trade deadline, the Pels know what they're gonna do with Lonzo. I'm telling you guys because there'll be enough games there to figure out who he is, and they'll go from there. Now the only difference would be if the Pels make the playoffs and he goes into the playoffs and either increases his play or his play falls down. But I think Lonzo's play would increase. He's always been a big time guy. So, there'll be more value there. So, it's interesting. I believe Kira is the heir apparent to Lonzo, and their whole thing is to groom him now so that when they inevitably lose Lonzo, they already have someone to back him up, you know. Uh, but here's the thing, right? Here's the other part of all this conversation. Let's just say everything works out well and they re-sign Lonzo. Okay. Um, Now you would maybe think maybe they wouldn't keep Bledsoe and JJ around long term. They're not part of the long term plans. JJ will be like 36, 37. Bledsoe will be like 31, right? So they're on a different timetable. So you're going to have to let JJ either trade or let him walk, which means now would get playing time this year. Bledsoe, either trade him or, you know what, I don't know what his salary looks like. Uh, so I don't know if how many years he's on for. Um, but similar situation, you either trade him or let him walk. And if you do that, that means now you either have to get back something to replace those guys, or you have to play Kira and NAW. And again, that's a huge drop off. Maybe not so much with NAW in regards to like their shooting guard spot, because he's comparable offensively. Um, Even if he can't shoot as well as JJ can from three, he can shoot good enough, but he's better shooting all over the court. Um, and I know I'm being kind of quiet here because my son is asleep. It's early. Uh, it's early Christmas Day morning, so try to let him rest. But this is the only time I'll be able to record like a peaceful video. um, but that's becoming an issue in my eyes. Like you know, and even still, check this out. Like Kira, even in a year, is not going to be comparable to Lonzo. Like Lonzo, like it's evident Lonzo, and I told you guys a couple days ago in the video, I was like, Lonzo is clearly the best point guard on this team. Honestly, he might just be the best guard on the team at this point, like even more so than Bledsoe, and that's saying something. That's saying a lot because you know there was no contest. Like, imagine if Drew was still here. Like, Drew would be good. I think he would still be considered better overall than Zoe, but the gap has shrunk. Like, just in the offseason, that gap has shrunk. Like, you might, if we're talking about a scale of 1 to 10, you might put Lonzo at like a 6 and Drew at like as like the 10 or maybe like a 9. That's more like a 7.5 for Lonzo. Now, he's shown tremendous strides this year. And so, you know, it's I gotta tell you, man, like Lonzo's gonna give the Pels hell this offseason. Clearly he wants the max. There are teams that are going to give him the max. So he has to he's it's really this season is to see if Lonzo is worth the max or not. That's the whole thing. It's not to see if they're gonna pay him uh, you know, on a lower level. Because here's the thing. if he's worth the max, they either have to pay him or let him walk. Because if he's worth the max, every team is going to give him the max. The market sets his value at the max at that point. But if he's like a little bit less than the max or something like that, there's a team that'll offer him the max and be like, okay, the Pels aren't going to pay this. Kind of like they did with Bogdanovich in Sacramento with Atlanta. So that's the situation the Pels are in. And Nikhil Alexander Walker is gonna be he'll be in my eyes, he might be the closest thing to give you some kind of Lonzo production after this year's, meaning on the offensive end and maybe defensive end. But he's still got a couple years to develop to get to that point. Um, but he's close enough in age to those guys to where he'll be right along or right on schedule. Um, but that, I mean, I'm just saying. At this point, it's like here's the situation with Lonzo. Like, so Lonzo plays, and let's just say he's having a great year, MIP level, most improved level year. Um, obviously he got 16 points, so he's averages 16 points a game this season. Let's just say that sticks, and let's just say he posts his normal 16, 7, and 6. Okay, if he's got this by say all All Star break trade deadline, the Pels have to make a decision. Do we trade Lonzo and get value for him because we know on the open market he'll be a hot commodity and we can get something back that's more valuable, even if it costs a little bit more now for the long term? Or do we risk it in free agency? Because he could say, okay, most improved level season, I should be getting the max. Max is somewhere in the ballpark of probably like 25 to 30 a year. So if he says he wants 25 to 30 a year, do you pay him 25 to 30 a year if you look at his numbers and say really his numbers are more of a 22, right? Or do you let someone get the opportunity to take him? See, he's going to put pressure on the front office based on his play. So it's important for him to play well early because now the front office has to make a decision sooner. If he's less than a max player, but he's going to want the max, and he's going to make these arguments, do you basically have to trade him now and get value because when he leaves, you're not going to get the value. He's going to just go, and you're not going to match him. you know. And so again, with these draft picks, Kira Lewis, NAW, and Jackson Hayes, you know, are any of them going to be Lonzo right? Going into next season? Absolutely not. You know, um, so ultimately, you're going to have to find a Lonzo replacement. Um, and the time frame is not Bi because you got him locked up. The time frame is Zion, and Zion is still on his rookie deal. You're gonna have to pay him in 2 seasons, and that's the other part of paying Lonzo and Bi is how do you pay Zion, and then you got Josh Hart. How do you pay Josh Hart? These are the things that the Pels are going to have to deal with this offseason. They're going to have money issues. They just gave Steven Adams that contract. Okay, that's gonna be a pain in the butt. You're paying JJ. Granted, JJ will fall off this year because his contract's up. If they choose not to trade him or re-sign him, which I doubt they'll re-sign him, then hey, he's off the books. But and that helps. So, and you may say, okay, we can put it out there. Great, you're getting value, no problem. But it's still going to be the elephant in the room. And then you got Eric Bledsoe. Bledsoe's going to maybe want to go to a championship contender for his twilight years. So he's definitely not going to resign. So now what do you have? You're going to have to make these kind of tough decisions if you're the front office. And then Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes still needs about another year or so. But we'll see as the year progresses if he makes the jump. Right now, I'm seeing some things that are troubling for Jackson Hayes. So we'll see. Granted, he didn't play a whole bunch of games last year, but he played enough to where you should be able to see the effects of it. But again, I'm giving all these guys 15 to 20 games per, you know, them having a short uh, off training camp and off season to some degree. The off season I'm a little bit more lenient on, but the training camp was extremely short, and so they didn't get to take or play as many games. And like Stan says, normally these guys are in the gym playing 5v5 before training camp starts, so they're already like in shape. And so, that's where we're at right now. But anyway, it's your boy. I hope y'all have a good day. Merry Christmas. Peace.